During the Second Chechen War, a Russian D-44 battery. In about 4 months since Ukrainian forces started their long-awaited oppo-sight-offs along a few axes. In the southern and eastern Ukraine, Ukrainians overturned less than 80 Russian howitative and rocket brushes. In the meantime, the Russians overturned only 24 Ukrainian howitzers and launchers. Although Russian forces Ukraine inventory, which pre-war artillery system, is more than twice artillery to be more than twice artillery. Inequality still sharp. And the tendency for the Russians is ominous. At same time, the increasing Russian losses in howitatively and launchers are increasingly helping to explain that Russians trust earlier artillery. There is no reason why a Ukrainian operator of the first-person's view drone encountered and destroyed a about 80-year-old Russian field gun. Famous Ukrainian drone operator Robert Brovdi was brought closer to the so-called Divisional Gun unda in 1946, while the explosive FVP drone was brought closer to D-44. This did not emerge 85 mm D-44 for the first time in the Ukrainian war. The Ukrainian technicians put even an antique weapon on the vintage MTLB armored tractors of the 1970s to produce a new type of tank rail. However, the presence of an old field gun on the Russian side reminds us that Russia has lost too much artillery and is trying to make these losses well. The Uralmass factory of Soviet Union produced more than 1,000 D-44 every year between 1945 and 1953. Weapons. Warsaw Pact and stronger D-30 in Allied countries until beginning of 1980s began to be changed. With maximum of 10 miles. Howitzer and less armor penetration is not worth it until the old D-44. With lower range than D-30 ability. Until it expanded its war in Ukraine from February 2022 on February 2022. It was clear why Ukrainians would take the D-44s from long-term warehouse. At beginning wider war, howitzers and launchers of Russia were more than about 3 number Ukraine and 1.100 modern artillery system, which transform Ukrainian artillery from Ukraine's NATO allies. However, it took some time for stable losses bite larger artillery ammunition of Russia and to make Kremlin. At least 1940s reagent vintage weapons of 1940s. He lost less. Arty Green, a high-level Ukraine artillery officer, explained the artillery gap that gradually supports Ukraine. Ukraine's Western fires further and more accurately than Russia's artillery, and allowed Ukrainian artillery to shoot at Russian before knowing that Russians are in plus pits. Mostly works with sensitive weapons. Arty Arty Green said, "If we detect the enemy artillery, we will choose and hit the most suitable fire system. To overthrow an old Russian D-44 field gun does not do much to change the balance of general artillery power. However, it is a strong symbol desperation the Russians because it sacrifices more modern artillery to Dams Ukraine winning.